You ever have that weird gut feeling that something's gonna go sideways right when everything's perfect? Yeah, that was me. Standing in my sister's backyard, tie half done, champagne in hand, while everyone buzzed around, putting the final touches on her wedding setup. She'd planned this day down to the last flower petal, got the permits, the catering, even rented one of those fancy outdoor bathrooms with Bluetooth speakers. It was all sunshine and soft jazz, until we heard tires screeching like a Fast and Furious audition, and the unmistakable voice that could curdle milk, HOA Karen. Now, let me tell you, this woman doesn't even live on the same block as my sister, but that's never stopped her from sticking her nose where it doesn't belong. She waltzed in like she owned the joint, hair helmeted into submission, clipboard raised like a badge of honor. Right behind her were two dudes in uniforms that looked like they'd been printed at a gas station, claiming they were community enforcement officers. The energy shifted. My uncle paused mid-chip dip, and even the fairy light seemed to dim a little. Karen zeroed in on my sister like a hawk spotting a field mouse. "You can't host public events without HOA pre-approval," she snapped, waving her clipboard like a wand that summoned paperwork. My sister blinked, confused. "It's not a public event, it's a private wedding. We cleared it with the city." Karen wasn't listening. She was already walking around the yard mumbling about fire code violations and noise ordinances. One of her goons started measuring the distance between the buffet table and the fence like it was a federal crime scene. It was giving major villain enters the prom energy. My brother-in-law-to-be tried to reason with her, but Karen was deep in her power trip, talking over everyone and threatening to call the fire marshal. That's when my cousin Benny, who had been in the back adjusting the sound system, cut the music and stepped up with a grin. "Ma'am, are you lost? The neighborhood buzzkill convention is 2 streets over." Karen's eyes narrowed so hard, I'm surprised her forehead didn't collapse inward. "This is an HOA matter," she hissed. Now here's the kicker. This wasn't even an HOA-governed property. My sister's house sat just outside the boundaries. We knew that. Karen knew that. But she was counting on everyone being too polite or too distracted to call her out. Not today. My mom whipped out the folder of permits with the flair of a magician, revealing her final card. "Everything's legal. You're trespassing." Karen blinked, then doubled down, mumbling something about setting a precedent. That's when Benny hit play on the sound system. The speakers blared the Law and Order theme. I nearly choked on my mimosa. Karen turned beet red, did a full 180, and stormed off the lawn like a toddler denied a cookie. Her officers trailed behind, visibly trying not to laugh. We all stood there, stunned, then slowly erupted into cheers. The wedding went off without a hitch after that. But we knew this wasn't over. Something about Karen's smile as she left said we had just kicked off a neighborhood war. Karen came stomping back 20 minutes later, dressed like she was about to give a press conference about how she single-handedly saved the neighborhood from joy. She had swapped her earlier clipboard for a full-on binder labeled Community Protocol Enforcement. And behind her came the same 2 off-brand Paul Blarts, now wearing reflective vests, like they were about to direct traffic at Coachella. "This event is in violation of HOA noise ordinances, parking codes, and social gathering limits," she barked like she was issuing a warrant. Her officers started fanning out across the lawn, yelling at guests to start wrapping it up. One of them actually tried to unplug the DJ's speaker setup, which, by the way, was playing "Marry You" by Bruno Mars. And let me tell you, if you want to start a riot at a wedding, interrupt the dance music. My sister looked like someone had smacked the frosting off her cake. She was frozen on the edge of the dance floor, veil trembling, holding a bouquet like it might double as a weapon. Her soon-to-be mother-in-law was arguing with one of the fake cops about whether a driveway technically counted as a public access zone. It was pure chaos. Confused guests, muttering neighbors peeking over fences, the flower girl crying because the bad lady yelled. And me? I'd hit my limit. I cracked my knuckles, finished my mimosa like it was battle fuel, and stepped in front of Karen like I was her final boss. "Hey, Karen," I said, smiling just enough to be petty. What department are these guys with again? She huffed and puffed, dodging the question. They're licensed community enforcement officers. Right. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Cool. Because impersonating a public official is like super illegal. Smile for the camera. One of the dudes started sweating so fast, you'd think I had turned on a heat lamp. We're just volunteers, he muttered, suddenly fascinated with his shoes. Karen's eye twitched. They're acting under HOA authority, she snapped. Which doesn't apply here, I shot back, pulling up the property map from the county website that I had bookmarked just in case. This house isn't under your HOA, Karen. You have no jurisdiction. You're just some angry lady in a pantsuit trying to cosplay as the law. The crowd was starting to catch on. Phones were coming out. Someone in the back shouted World Star, and Karen realized she was rapidly losing control of the narrative. She started waving her binder around like it was a magical spell book that would make us all vanish. I demand that this gathering cease immediately, or I'll contact the authorities. Already did, I grinned, because it kinda looked like you were about to incite a panic. Right on cue, 2 actual police cruisers rolled up, lights off, but very much real. Karen straightened up like she'd summoned them, but her face dropped when one of the officers walked straight past her and over to me. We got a report of trespassing and impersonation of law enforcement, the cop asked. I pointed directly at Karen and her fake patrol squad. That'd be our local HOA dictator and her dollar store deputies. The cops asked for IDs. The officers froze. One tried to say he left his in the car, which the cop responded to by asking him to sit tight in the backseat of the cruiser while they checked some things. Karen tried to spin it, said it was all a misunderstanding, that she was simply trying to protect the neighborhood. But it was too late. The DJ hit Bad Blood by Taylor Swift, and the timing couldn't have been better. The police let the event continue, warning Karen to leave the property or face charges. She turned to go, but not before hissing, "You'll regret this," like a cartoon villain who just got booted from her evil lair. The guests broke into applause. My sister wiped her eyes and laughed for the first time all day. And me, I toasted the universe with another mimosa. Because if Karen thought this wedding was wild, she hadn't seen anything yet. Karen was in full meltdown mode, pacing the yard with her phone out, like she was auditioning for an episode of Real Housewives. HOA Havoc. She was narrating into her camera like a wannabe influencer, talking about how she was documenting the illegal gathering and protecting community values. Meanwhile, her 2 Dollar Tree deputies were awkwardly lingering near the punch table, clearly realizing they were in way over their heads. One of them nervously picked at a cheese cube, like it might help him vanish. That's when I decided it was time to end the circus. I strolled up slow, calm, sipping my 3rd mimosa and enjoying the confused looks they all shot me. "Hey, Karen," I said, letting her spin around mid-rant. "You done embarrassing yourself, or should I give you a few more minutes?" She opened her mouth, probably to call me a delinquent or some HOA slur, but I didn't give her the chance. I casually flipped open my jacket, pulled it to the side, and let the badge glint in the sunlight. You could practically hear the record scratch. "I'm a licensed state investigator," I said, calm as ever. "And right now, you're interfering with a legal private event." Karen blinked so hard I thought her eyelashes might fall off. You're what?" she stuttered. I didn't move. "Also, FYI, impersonating law enforcement? That's a felony. So unless you'd like to spend your afternoon explaining your cosplay to an actual judge, I suggest you shut it down." Both of her goons froze like statues. The guy with the mirrored sunglasses, who'd been puffing his chest like he was on some neighborhood SWAT team, instantly deflated like a dollar store bounce house. The other one quietly took off his vest and tried to pretend he was just a regular guest who got lost near the pigs in a blanket. Karen's mouth was still open, her brain clearly buffering, as if she couldn't compute the possibility that she might be in trouble. I waved at the officer still hanging out near the driveway. "You mind having these 2 sit tight in the cruiser? They're about to be guests of honor in a real legal situation. He smirked and nodded, then calmly asked the wannabe enforcers to hand over their IDs. The mirrored sunglasses guy didn't even argue. He just walked like he was heading into an execution. Karen let out a strangled noise like a tea kettle on the verge of explosion. "This is harassment," she finally screeched. "You're using your badge to intimidate me." "Nah," I said, flipping my badge closed. "I'm using it to protect my sister's wedding from a woman who thinks she's the sheriff of a neighborhood she doesn't even live in." That stung. She flinched, then turned to the actual cop, like he was her backup plan. "Aren't you going to stop this?" she pleaded. He shrugged. "Nope, you're trespassing." The crowd was living for it. Someone actually shouted "World's Worst Karen," and it stuck like glue. Karen, still red-faced and glitching, looked around for an escape route, but every eye was on her. And this time, no one was backing her up. The wedding guests, the neighbors, even the DJ had his phone out, recording the whole beautiful downfall. "You'll regret this," she hissed one last time, but it had zero bite left. My sister walked up, radiant as hell, and said, "Not today." Karen turned on her heel and stormed off. Her fake cops detained and her phone still recording, probably uploading straight to the Cringe Hall of Fame. The party picked right back up, and the DJ, bless him, queued up Celebration by Kool and the Gang, like it was divine timing. My sister smiled. The guests cheered, and for the first time in weeks, the neighborhood drama took a backseat to actual happiness. But I knew Karen wasn't done yet. Nah, this was just the calm before the real storm. Karen was pacing like a malfunctioning Roomba, still clinging to her binder like it was gonna save her from felony charges. Her two goons were parked awkwardly on a bench near the driveway, looking like middle schoolers sent to the principal's office. I pulled out my phone and made one simple call. "Hey, it's me. Yeah, gonna need you guys out here. We've got impersonators and a whole mess of HOA madness. Real backup, the kind with badges, body cams, and zero tolerance for suburban power trips, was officially en route. While we waited, I decided to poke the hornet's nest. I sat down across from Karen's henchman, calm as hell. "So, want to tell me who exactly told you this was legal?" The guy with the sweat stains on his khakis cracked before I even finished the sentence. "She said it was HOA authorized," he stammered. "She told us it was a private enforcement job. Said we were backing up a neighborhood officer on a code violation shutdown. We thought it was legit." His buddy just nodded, eyes wide, clearly rethinking every life choice that led to this moment. They had no clue I was actual law enforcement. And now, they were realizing they'd accidentally ended up on cops, HOA edition. Sirens weren't even necessary. My deputies pulled up silent but serious. The second they stepped out in uniform, the energy shifted. No more Karen power trip. No more clipboard supremacy. Just three very real cops, looking extremely unimpressed. Karen spotted them and immediately went into performative mode. "Officers!" she called out, waving both arms like she was flagging down an airplane. "Thank God you're here. This man is abusing his authority and threatening community order." My lead deputy looked at her like she'd just spoken in Dolphin. "Ma'am," he said flatly, "we're here because you brought two unlicensed individuals onto private property and gave them orders to impersonate law enforcement." Her face dropped faster than a bad Wi-Fi connection. "They're not impersonating. They're security." "Security doesn't hand out fake citations or try to disperse a legal event," I cut in. "And unless you've got a badge or a court order, what you did is straight up illegal." Then came the fun part. My guys cuffed the fake cops, gently but firmly. They didn't resist. In fact, one of them actually thanked the deputy, like he was relieved it was over. And Karen? Oh, Karen tried to do the most Karen thing possible. She bolted, not in a dramatic sprint. That would have taken cardio. No, she waddled over to her golf cart, The one she had aggressively parked at the end of the cul-de-sac like it was a presidential limo and floored it like she was making a run for the border. Problem is, golf carts don't go fast, like, at all. She made it a solid 30 feet before my second deputy calmly walked alongside her like he was out for a casual jog. "Ma'am, stop the vehicle." "This is a personal escape device," she shouted, slapping the roof like it was gonna boost her horsepower. He reached over, pulled the key out, and the cart rolled to a sad, whisper-quiet stop. Karen was red-faced, puffing, wild-eyed, but she wasn't going anywhere. She was escorted back toward the cruiser, still yelling about how this was an overreach and how she'd be speaking with the governor. My deputy didn't even blink. "You're being detained for questioning regarding the impersonation of law enforcement and unauthorized use of private property," he said. "You can explain it to the county attorney." The guests were stunned, but then the applause started again. Like this was the encore of a concert no one realized they bought tickets for. My sister finally smiled for real. My brother-in-law brought me a burger as a thank you. And me? I watched Karen sit in the back of that cruiser, binder still clutched in her lap like a rejected homework assignment. The tables didn't just turn, they spun. And Karen? She had no idea the next chapter was going to be even worse. Karen, now fully unraveling in front of God, the sheriff, and half the neighborhood, started shrieking about harassment and overreach like she was starring in a made-for-TV movie. Her face was blotchy, hair slightly askew, binder clutched to her chest like it might morph into a legal force field. One deputy pulled her aside for questioning, trying to get the facts through the chaos. But Karen was in full Karen mode. "I was just trying to protect the neighborhood's peace," she wailed like we hadn't all just watched her ruin the best day of someone's life. I kept it cool, calm, pulled the body cam footage from my vest and airdropped it straight to the deputies. It showed everything. Her barking orders, her Dollar Tree deputies trying to shut down the party, and her throwing HOA buzzwords around like confetti at a dictator's birthday. Oh, and I also handed over printed screenshots of the fake violation notices she'd handed out, complete with made-up codes like Section 9.3b, excessive festivity. One of the deputies just let out a low whistle. "Ma'am," he said, dead serious, "you're lucky you didn't try this in a county that actually prosecutes impersonation cases hard." They gave her a choice, and it was real simple. Admit she overstepped, apologize to the hosts, and quietly leave. Or catch a ride downtown and try explaining all of this to a judge. Guess which one she picked? Not the smart one. Nope. Karen squared her shoulders, flipped her hair like a defiant sitcom villain, and straight up doubled down. "I will not apologize to criminals," she snapped. "This entire event is a threat to community order." The deputy blinked like he couldn't believe what he just heard. "So that's a no." "It's a hell no," Karen spat. And just like that, the cuffs came back out. The best part? This all went down during the ceremony. We were 15 seconds into the vows. My sister had just started saying, "I promise to love you through chaos and calm." And bam! Karen gets walked past the front row like a disgraced pageant queen. Guests turned. Phones came out. The flower girl asked, "Is she going to jail?" And my aunt whispered, "God, I hope so." Karen tried to keep her dignity intact, chin up and still yapping about bylaws, but no one was listening anymore. The timing couldn't have been more poetic. As the deputy guided her across the lawn and into the waiting cruiser, my sister finished her vow with, "And I promise no HOA dictator will ever come between us." The entire crowd lost it. Laughter, applause, a few actual tears. The chaos had turned into legend in real time. Karen, meanwhile, was steaming in the back seat, probably plotting a Facebook post that would make her the victim in all this. But it didn't matter. Her little attempt to spin the story had flopped harder than a toddler tantrum in Walmart. The guests knew the truth. The cameras had receipts. And the neighborhood. Oh, it was about to turn on her real fast. Because this wasn't just about a wedding anymore. This was the beginning of Karen's full-on downfall. Once, Karen was out of sight and on her way to collect her first ever mugshot. The energy shifted fast. The ceremony kicked back in like nothing had happened. Except now, everyone was buzzing with the kind of adrenaline you'd only get after watching a real-life villain get escorted off the lawn. My sister, absolute queen that she is, picked up right where she left off and even threw in a banger mid-vow. "If anyone here tries to object, we've got law on our side." The crowd lost it. Even the officiant laughed so hard he had to wipe his glasses. The DJ didn't miss a beat. As soon as they kissed, he dropped "Ain't No Mountain High Enough," and boom, we were back in celebration mode. The food hit harder, the champagne felt colder, and the dance floor turned into a chaotic mix of uncles doing the worm and kids sliding on grass like it was a water park. It was one of those nights you knew would get retold for years, like, remember when Karen got cuffed mid-vow? Level of iconic. But the real magic came after the party. See, Karen didn't just get slapped on the wrist. Nope. Once the footage and reports were filed, the county charged her with filing false reports, impersonation coordination, and, the cherry on top, misusing community funds. Turns out, she paid those two fake cops with money pulled straight from the HOA's maintenance budget. You know, the one that was supposed to go towards sidewalk repairs and repainting that sad little gazebo in the park? Yeah, that one. Gone. Straight into her ego trip fund. News traveled fast. Within a week, the HOA board was in full-on panic mode. Emergency meetings were called. Neighbors started demanding transparency. By the end of the month, every single HOA leader tied to Karen was voted out or quit before they could be dragged out. A full audit exposed even more petty tyranny. Overpriced purchases, sketchy consulting fees, and at least 3 violations that turned out to be completely made up. The HOA rebooted from scratch. New bylaws, new leadership, and a firm no more dictators policy. And me? Well, I didn't ask for it, but I got promoted at work after the department saw how I handled the whole mess. Apparently, keeping your cool while shutting down a rogue HOA Karen during a wedding is good for your resume. But honestly, the best part was local legend status. Neighbors started calling me the law on the lawn. Some folks printed memes. One guy even painted my silhouette holding a badge on the side of his mailbox like it was a mural. Every December, like clockwork, I get a box of cookies from the new HOA president. Handwritten note inside. "Thanks for saving the neighborhood." One of the cookies has a tiny frosting badge on it, and somewhere in a dusty file cabinet, at the sheriff's office. Karen's mugshot lives forever. Proof that justice showed up, in dress shoes and sunglasses, and crashed the worst wedding invasion of all time.